Are you gonna try again?
No.
I think that's the very wise answer. But is it your Stephen Redgrave moment? When you're in a pub and you know the 30, 40 people who are there, and you can write a question thinking they're going to hate this, but they always win, so good. And,
Yep.
and that lot will get it and they don't necessarily win. So, how is it writing for like 100,000+ people and thinking, oh God, did you just kind of keep true to what you thought was a good question? Or did you try and second guess?
No, I had no choice. I tried in the early days because when I think the best thing I've done over the last, especially over the last 12 months, is almost take myself away from social media.
Mm,
I've got the wonderful Alex and the wonderful Bex who are behind,
mm,
and they look, I mean, they send me all the brilliant stuff from social media, but I've managed to keep myself away from it because it can sway me to go in, oh, right, okay, maybe I do need to do this, or maybe I do need
mm,
to put that in. I've just stuck to what I know, but I've always stuck with, and it's that who wants to be a millionaire principle. It's only easy if you know the answer.
mm,
So quizzes aren't supposed to be people turn up every week and it's 50 out of 50, everyone gets a tiebreaker, and jobs are good and
mm,
everyone's a winner. It's not like that. It should challenge people, it should make people think.
mm,
And that's kind of what I've had to do, because if I listen to everyone going, oh, you need more sport questions, so then the
mm,
following week I put more sport questions in, and it's like, oh, we don't like sport, we need more art and literature, or we need more history, or we want more 1940s jazz, whatever it might have been. It's that kind of, if I'd listened to everyone,
mm,
you can't write a quiz for 180,000 people.
mm.
So yeah, I've just sort of stuck with well, it's like, people who write, quizzes for TV, they don't sit there thinking we've got 7 million people watching, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire tonight. Let's make sure we've got it in there to focus on the 18 to 20s group.
Mm.
All I ever do say to people is, look, if you don't know the answer, it doesn't matter. There are no prizes for this.
Mm.
There's no, I'm not turning up at your house giving you a trophy next week. You might learn it, and then when you're back in a pub quiz and the quizmaster asks a very similar question with that answer,
Mm.
you'll know it, and you'll know it because you played the quiz and you paid
Mm.
attention.
Do you have a favorite question that you've written?
I do. And it was just an obscure fact that I came across, and I can't even remember I came across the fact, but it was the Lego tires question.
Oh,
And
the biggest producer of tires in
yeah,
the world. Yeah, yeah,
I came across that fact and I was like, that's genius.
it
I
is.
would never ever have thought of that. So I sat on it for a few weeks. I think it might have been a news article where
Mm,
someone had found it as a somewhere and what have you, and it popped up online. So I thought, I'm not going to go with it now, because if I go with it now, everyone's
mm,
going to know. But if I hold back on it and then throw it out, hopefully
mm,
people would have forgotten. And there were a lot of people went,
mm.
you're wrong. I'm like, I'm not. Go and do your research. I'm right. Yeah, that is always my, because it always catches people out. If people don't know that fact, they'll
Yeah,
always think of road tires and they won't think of Lego.
it is a brilliant fact, and it's one that also brings out some of the best in team quizzing, like you do, because it allows everybody to have a bit of an argument about it until somebody has that aha moment.
Yeah,
And even if they don't get that, when they hear the answer, it's something that just might raise a groan or a chuckle or something.
yeah.
Of course, you can't hear that, but if you're in a pub, you would absolutely get that response that any quizmaster absolutely loves. You have raised over £1 million for charity.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a phenomenal effort. And when you talk about paying back to the charity or society at whole, you could have tried to monetize this for yourself and you know make £1 million for yourself, and with the amount of interest and goodwill, you could have done very well. I think it says a lot about you that you went down that route, and I feel perhaps your homeless experience again kind of shaped your view on giving back. Going forward, do you kind of have more plans for that sort of thing now that the world is changing again, um, or are you going to try and contribute in different ways, do you think?
So we've tweaked the model a little bit. I've said no matter what, and I'm not hung up on the numbers now. I
Mm,
don't even bother. Beck and Alex
mm,
keep an eye on it, and they'll
mm,
keep me updated if there's anything drastic. But I've no interest in how many people are watching on a Thursday or Saturday. And I know that sounds
mm,
awful, but because of how it's kept people connected, that's all I'm really bothered about in terms of that. But I've always said Thursday quiz stays where it is. It's not moving now. It's an immovable beast, and I'd have anarchy from people if I turned around and one Thursday night and said, and that was the last one. But you're right. I could very easily, after that first quiz, gone, oh, right. So if I was to charge everyone £1 next week, and then £1 the following week, yeah, right. Within 6 weeks, I could be a millionaire. But that's not me. I think when you live without money for 2 years, you don't really, sort of need it kind of thing. You know how to get by, and that's all I have done all my life is get by. So I would much rather, and we did in the early days, obviously focused on the bigger charities. We had NHS charities together, Alzheimer's Research UK, but we this year we focused on some of the smaller charities that couldn't necessarily, would cry out for the publicity they got. So, I'd much rather, whatever I do in terms of quiz related, there'll always be some kind of charity element to it. And I'm always happy, to be ambassadors. I mean, I'm running the London Marathon in October for Connection at St Martin's, again, to raise money for them. I'll help them out no matter what. So I'm always available to do things for charity, because why wouldn't people want to give up their time to help out charity?
One thing right behind you is a certificate from Guinness. Now, you got one world record for the biggest kind of live streamed quiz, didn't you? And then you did the hugely masochistic world's longest online pub quiz, which I remember that moment when you did break the record, hugely emotional, but boy, were you shattered. I mean, how long did that take to recover from?
About 3 weeks.
Wow.
That I actually, because towards the end of it, I realized I've stayed awake 24, 48 hours before. I used to do night shift at Sainsbury's when I first moved to the Northwest, but I got it all completely wrong, as it's par for the course with me. But when I got the guidelines through, when we were originally talking to Guinness about this world record, I created a brand new record title, which I think was longest ever quiz. So I set that up, and they set the minimum target as 48 hours. But that was set up for if you had a venue and you were going to host it from the venue. So the guys Never Going to Quiz You Up very recently broke that record. So that was the record title I set up, that they then did in a venue just before Bank Holiday weekend, and they broke the record, and we sent our congratulations to them. But talking to Guinness, they went, actually, we found a better record title, which is longest marathon as a quizmaster. And the record's 33 hours. And I went, genius, I can do that. I've stayed awake that long. That's fine. But I spread it over having to be awake for 2 nights. So I started it on the Wednesday night. Started it on the Tuesday night. So I was awake Tuesday night, awake Wednesday night. And it was the early hours of the Thursday morning in the infamous Game of Thrones round, which just Game of Thrones is now banned from the quiz after what happened at the second attempt. But and I was just sat in my chair, and I did as I did, read the question, was watching my timer, and I just looked down underneath my desk, and there's a load of wires and cables, as everyone has under the desk. And all of a sudden they just started moving. And I was just looking, going, I can't even concentrate here, and I'm not far from breaking the record. But if my vision's going, something's not right. And I've been staring at these screens and cameras for hours and hours on end. He did zap a lot of strength out of me, and that's why I really, really wanted to go all the way through Thursday and then into Thursday night, and then do the Thursday night quiz and finish it off beautifully and do the 48 hours. There was no way I was going to get that far. I don't think I'd have got to lunchtime if I'd tried to push myself through it. So I think I ended at the right time. We'd broken the record, ended at the right time, had that break, had a few hours sleep. But yeah, to try and get a sleeping pattern back, it took a good 3 weeks to try and, apart from sort of waking up in the middle of the night screaming about Game of Thrones pronunciations, I think didn't really help. So,
and then you tried to do it again, and let's not dwell too much on it, but it was going so well, and then your internet connection just went, or something like that. This is
the one that I'm still. Bitter's not probably the right word. I'm still distraught about it now, because in my eyes, I broke that record the first time round, but because of the corrupted video file, yet again, Jay and technology never mix, but because of that corrupted video file, we couldn't verify it. So I wanted the record, had to go again. So yeah, I was flying. I was doing really well and had some good friends popping in and out and helping out and bits, keeping me going. The live chat was on fire as it was in the first one. I was doing great. I was doing stupid Sean Connery impressions and said I was going to work on that for the whole 33 hours. And I was on absolutely fine form. And about half an hour before, so the software I use is called Streamlabs OBS, and I'd got a network connection warning. Now it's really difficult when the guidelines state you have to ask a question every minute, and then you can have a maximum every minute and then 30 seconds per answer. So trying to look at things in between and see what's going on is quite difficult to do. But I saw this warning and I thought, that's game over. If that goes now, that's it. It's game over. There's no leeway in the guidelines for if you have a technical problem. Don't worry, you can take an hour and then come back in. But I was working out for every hour I completed, I was entitled to a 5-minute break. So I knew that I had 25 minutes in hand. All I needed to do was get through the questions, through the Game of Thrones answers, and then, I could just go, right, I'm going to take a break, because in the rules, it did say that I could swap the streams over in a break, because that's the logical point, as long as the stopwatches and everything and the witnesses are still watching. And I was 3 answers away on my end. And the warning flashed, and I just knew it was game over. And I couldn't speak quick enough because, it was 19 hours in at this point, and I just couldn't get those answers and get the, I'm on a break thrown up. And sooner it went, that were it. I needed a new mouse, unfortunately, because that was the thing I had in my hand and knew that it had gone. But it was just really frustrating because I'd planned for everything, and I even knew that if I knew the internet was going to go and I got those warnings, what to do. And I just couldn't get there. It was so frustrating, really frustrating, that I'd been beaten by another technical problem.
Are you going to try again?
No.
I think that's the very wise answer. But is it your Stephen Redgrave moment of if you ever see me in the boat again?
Well, no, because someone I've come friends with over through the quizzing, who was doing sort of is like DJing and a bit of a quiz himself. He said to me, well, I've got a pub. I was like, right. And he said, well, give it 6 months, we could do a joint venture if you want, live from the pub. I called him a few choice names because this was like 48 hours after this one had just finished. But yeah, I'm never one to never say never, because I know what I'm like. I said after when we couldn't get the last one verified, everyone went, well, you're going to do it. You need to break it. But the one thing I took away from the comments, once I'd sort of, got over my own sort of feelings about it, was everyone said, you don't need to break this record. And they are right. For me, it was a personal achievement. And it was just, again, having that whole community behind me, lifting me back up from, and I don't mind admitting it, I sat outside for an hour, crying my eyes out, 1, because of adrenaline, but 2, because I'd been beaten again for something that I'd worked and planned, for 6 months to try and make happen. So, but the community picked me up and just said, you don't need to break these records. We won't think anything less of you if you don't achieve it. So don't worry about it. And it's those kind of comments that make you think, yeah, probably right. Actually, let's just leave this to one side for a while, and wait for the announcement in 6 months' time where I go, right, I've decided I'm gonna have another go. And if I do say that, you have more than welcome to come around and remove me from any cameras quickly.
It's an interesting you use the word community, because it does feel you've created something like that, an enlarged family, people who've never met, who chat in the chat as if they're old friends, and that's really quite something. If we're thinking legacy, looking back in years' time, that's quite something. We talked about the morale. I think that's really quite special, and you having that support when you've given them so much is great, because that proves that it's actually a thing and not just fine words.
So social media is a very, very toxic place. you know, I mean, I know you guys have seen it. You know, I read your tweet with regards to Mastermind and how people, you know, and University Challenge and how people are so cruel around those things. You know, I take myself away from social media as much as I can, but when something like this happens and you read those comments, you realize that it can be done, it can be used for good. And, you know, that's what I am proud of, the fact that people who have never, ever met are in there talking to each other. And, you know, we've got Kim and Carol who post on the shout out post every Saturday about where they've been on their travels. And I get messages from people saying, do you know where Kim and Carol have been this week? I can't watch tonight. You know, it's that kind of thing. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. And again, you know, those really are the proudest. The fact that I've created a community, you know, everyone's welcome. It's not a closed shop. You don't have to pay to be a part of it. You know, is why I'm very, very proud, because people can ask anything in there and they'll get the help and support they need.
And it's a time when we were all struggling one way or another. I mean, I've seen some comments, but, you know, you must have received quite a lot saying, you know, thank you, this has meant a lot and helped.
Yeah. I mean, at its peak, we were getting something like 1,000 messages a day coming through, and I just couldn't, you know, and that was messages, that was private messages, wasn't just the comments, and I couldn't keep up with it. But the overriding theme was, you know, you've reconnected us, you know, because of you creating this quiz and it being there on a Thursday and a Saturday night. It's meant that my mum, who's down south, and my uncle who's in Wales or whatever it might be, it means we've had a reason to come together. You know, I mean, like Joe Wicks was doing his exercise, but you know, that was great getting the kids together in the morning and doing, you know, all of the PE and stuff. But this is what people say. I mean, I've still now got a gentleman who wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning in Sydney or he's in Australia to get together with his family back here in the UK and play the quiz every Thursday night, because it gives him a reason to connect. And it doesn't finish when the quiz finishes. So the quiz, I'll finish the quiz, you know, stay safe, put it all into its close off slides, and people then go onto their own Zooms and they're all, you know, oh, how are your scores? And then they have a chat about, you know, the cats and whatever it might be. And that was always the overriding theme. But then we've helped people propose. We've only just recently, I was asked if I could ask someone to be someone's godparent on the quiz. And if you strip everything else away from everything, for me, the awards, the accolades, the money raised for charity is a massive thing. But what I've actually helped, having had really, really bad mental health, what I've done there, that is the proudest thing out of all of this, is how many people we've helped, you know, stay together and have a reason to keep going.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask, you know, what the proudest thing was, and I'm not surprised by your answer, because I think, you know, you can't underestimate the impact, I think, of bringing people together in a friendly and safe environment at a time when we're all scared as hell about what's going on. Okay, so we talked a lot about what's happened. You're going to keep the quiz running on Thursday night. What are your kind of broader ambitions now? Because you've got a platform, you've gained a lot of experience in media, you've done some radio, you know, TV, online, etc. You know, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years' time?
I mean, yeah, the short term is we're going out hopefully on for a mini tour in January, because I want the opportunity to see some of these people face to face and say thank you to them. Because without people watching, I wouldn't be sat, you know, talking to you today. The 3 to 5 years, for me, I really hope I've broken into radio, for the simple reason being, and I alluded to this before, I've never been a fan of being in the spotlight, and I hate, it's not that I hate being in the spotlight now. You know, I love what I do on a day-to-day basis. I spend most of my life writing quiz questions, getting ready to tease and torment people on twice a week. But there's an anonymity with radio, that you can go on radio, you can broadcast to 8-9 million people, and no one, you know, you might pass that person in the street who's just been listening. And I know that it works like that, because when I host the Zoe Balls quiz on the quiz on Zoe Balls breakfast show on a Thursday morning, I do 5 questions to them. I had a delivery driver turned up at mine on that Thursday afternoon, And he was listening to radio too. I said, "Oh, do you listen all the day?" Yeah, in the van at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I listen all the way through until I finish work at 5. I said, "Oh, so how'd you get on the quiz this morning?" I said, "Oh, I got 3 out of 5. They were really tough this morning." And I thought, you don't realise that you're actually sat here talking, and that's what I love about radio. And radio helped me in those 2 years that I lived on the streets. It's what kept me going. I listened to radio. Chris Moore's Breakfast Show, The Now Show, all these kind of different shows that kept me going. And again, it comes back to me being able to help people. If I can sit there and be on radio and help someone, wouldn't even know that I've done it, but know that it helps people, then that's where I'd hope to end up. I've got some ideas for quiz shows, I've got some ideas for TV shows, but again, I'd rather, if someone said, "Oh, love that idea, we'll take it on," I'd quite happily sit in the background and produce it. I don't want to sit at the front of it. I don't see myself as being, the new host of Mastermind, or, suddenly popping, replacing Jeremy Vine on Eggheads or what have you. That's not an aspiration. The aspiration for me is probably the production side of it, and hopefully break into radio.
Well, I don't think anybody could really argue that you've kind of earned a shot at it. You've had an incredible life, but a particularly incredible last 18 months. The sort that actually, if going back to the first comment about a film of your life, if you actually wrote it, then people would, well, that's just ridiculous. That just wouldn't happen. They'd think it's preposterous. You've got an MBE, you've broken a world record, you've become an honorary member of the England football squad, you've kept many people entertained, you raised an awful lot of money for charity and kept morale up. Jay Flynn, I hope everything works out for you in the future, and congratulations on what you've achieved. And thanks so much for speaking to us.
Oh, thank you very much for those kind words, and thank you for having me on as a guest. It's been great to talk to you.